Ergo, you may begin.
Right. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 PM. Welcome to the March 13th, 2023 City of Burlingame Planning Commission meeting. For all in attendance today, please note that this Planning Commission meeting is being held in person and using the Zoom webinar format. For those of you attending via Zoom, please note that there are several ways to submit comments during the meeting. You may raise your hand in Zoom by clicking on the raise button located at the bottom of your screen. Members of the public who are participating in the Zoom webinar by phone can dial *9 to raise a hand. You may also send your comments by email to publiccomment@burlingame.org. Staff will be monitoring emails submitted during the meeting, which will be read at the appropriate time. The length of the emailed comment should be commensurate with the 3 minutes customarily allowed for verbal comments. If you are an applicant or an applicant's representative, I will ask you to raise your hand when the item is up for discussion so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. We ask that you also turn on your video at that time so that we can have more clear communication, simulating the experience we would have if we were meeting in person. This meeting is also being streamed live on YouTube and will be uploaded to the city's website. Excuse me. Agenda item number 2 is roll call. The record should note that 6 members of our commission are present this evening. Commissioner Say is absent. Agenda item number 3 is approval of the minutes. We have meeting minutes to review and approve this evening from the February 13th and the February 27th regular planning commission meeting. Are there any comments or changes or discussion regarding the minutes? Yes,
Yes,
Vice Chair Pfaff.
yes, Chair Gall. I just have one very minor correction, but I think it just should go in, which is on the February 13 minutes. It was the 1200-1340 Bayshore Highway on page 12. Oops, sorry about that. Thank you. On page 12, and it's just, it says the very first paragraph midway down, Facebook project has 600 square feet on 18 acres of land. I'm not sure, but I think that's 660,000. I don't know what it is, but it's not 660. That's it.
Are there any other changes or discussion? Okay, can we vote on both at the same time or should we do these separate?
We can vote on both at the same time and just incorporate the changes as noted by Vice Chair Pfaff.
Okay, all right, so would anyone like to motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes
All right, second that. So we have a motion by
with the change as as Commissioner Pfaff has mentioned.
okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Camerado and a second by Commissioner Moran. So are we gonna do a roll call vote?
Call vote, Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Horan,
Aye.
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Vice Chair Pfaff.
Aye.
And Chair Gall.
Aye. The motion passes 6-0-1 and that is not scalable. All right, so we will. All right, agenda item number 4 is the approval of the agenda. Staff, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay, and do we have any recusals tonight?
Yes, I'm recusing from Occidental
Okay,
as I live within 500 feet.
okay. So Chair Schmidt will be recusing from item 8B. All right,
Commissioner- Commissioner Gall.
Oh.
Gall, I recused from 1204 Mills last time, but that was by error.
okay,
So I won't be recusing from that item this evening.
okay. And no other recusal? Okay. Then we will move on to agenda item 5, which is public comments, non-agenda. Members of the public may speak about any items not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to suggest an item for a future planning commission agenda may do so during the public comment period. The Ralph Brown Act, the state local agency open meeting law, prohibits the planning commission from acting on any matter that is not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each, and please speak clearly into the microphone. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on an item not on our agenda? Hands on Zoom. No, then we will move on to the next item. Study item, and we do not have any study items tonight. So that will bring us to the consent calendar, of which we also have no items. So we'll move on to regular action items. And our first item is item 8A, 1204 Mills Avenue. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative and are attending the meeting via Zoom, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask that you also turn on your video at that time. Were any commissioners not able to visit the project site, or do any commissioners wish to know any ex parte communication regarding this? Then let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we have a staff report, please?
Yes, the applicant is proposing to replace the existing one-story single-unit dwelling and detached garage at 1204 Mills Avenue with a new two-story single-unit dwelling and new detached one-car garage. The applicant is also requesting a special permit for building height, 31 feet proposed, where 30 feet is the maximum allowed without a special permit. Planning staff would note that the subject site is in a flood zone and must have a raised finished floor to meet Federal Emergency Management Agency FEMA requirements. There are no existing landscape trees on site. With this project, 3 new 24-inch box landscape trees are proposed, which complies with the reforestation ordinance requirements. The Planning Commission first reviewed this application as a design review study item on February 13th. The applicant submitted a response letter and revised plans dated February 28, 2023 to address the Planning Commission's comments and suggestions from that. That letter is included with the staff report. I am not sure whether the applicant and property owner are able to join by Zoom. They are, okay. I will, at that point then, that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? Okay, then I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
Hi, this is Ginger. My name is Ginger Ferretto. I'm with Architecture Allure, and I have to admit I missed some of that. I don't really have anything to add. We addressed some comments that you had, and it's going to be a very nice, clean project. And did you have any questions for me?
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Then do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item?
There are no hands raised.
And no,
And no emails.
then I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, any comments on this project?
Well,
Go ahead, Vice Chair Fox.
yeah, I appreciate the attention to the detail. That was a little, there's some areas that were a little, need a little work on transitions. And I noticed that the stone veneer base goes around the whole structure, which I think is helpful and makes it not look so immensely tall on the one side with those verticals. So I think it's good. And do you want me to make a
You'd like
motion? Okay, I will make a motion to approve. Oh, no, do we move it? Oh,
Yeah.
approve altogether? Okay.
Mhm.
Approve 1204 Mills Avenue. Oh, and the special permit for height.
Second.
Okay, I'm going to give it to Commissioner Schmidt. So we have a motion by Vice Chair and a second by Commissioner Schmidt. Any discussion on the motion? Nope. And can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Horan,
Aye.
Commissioner Lowenthal.
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Vice Chair Foff,
Aye.
and Chair Gall.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0-1. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or reviewed by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $745, which includes noticing costs. Congratulations and good luck with your project. I'll bring us to regular action item 8B, 317 Occidental. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative and are attending via the meeting via Zoom, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you. Oh, if you're on. Zoom. So so you're not, so I'm gonna skip that. So were any commissioners not able to do the project site, or do any commissioners wish to note any ex parte communication regarding this project? And let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we have a staff report?
Yes, and Chair Gall, I did just want to note that Commissioner Schmidt has.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, and Commissioner Schmidt is recusing and has left the room.
Thank you. This application proposes an interior remodel of an existing second-story bathroom and a new 65 square foot uncovered balcony at the rear right side of the house over an existing covered rear porch. The applicant is requesting a special permit for the 65 square foot second-story balcony at the rear of the house, where a special permit is required for any second-story balcony. The balcony is uncovered and the proposed railing is painted wood. The proposed balcony meets the setback requirements for a second-story balcony, including declining height envelope and the minimum horizontal setback of twice the distance of the required side setback. Because the proposed balcony is located over an existing covered porch, and because uncovered balconies are not included in floor area, neither the lot coverage nor the floor area ratio for the site are altered by the proposed balcony. The applicant has provided a letter signed by the neighbor to the north at 321 Occidental Avenue, noting that the neighbor approves of the proposed work. There are existing mature evergreen shrubs located on the side property line between the two sites that help to screen the proposed second-story balcony from the property at 321 Occidental Avenue. No other part of the existing building envelope is proposed to be altered, and there is no change to the number of bedrooms, provided parking, or landscape on the site. So in summary, the applicant is requesting a special permit for a second-story balcony. I believe the applicant is in attendance for questions, but I'm available for questions. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. Are there any questions of staff? Nope. Hey, then would the applicant please come forward, state your name and anything else you'd like to add about your project?
Good evening, staff and commissioners. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Daniel from Four Architects. I'll be speaking on behalf of the homeowners, Darren and Suzanne Shimkus, for their small renovation project at the rear part of their property. The project includes a master and a small balcony as described by staff tonight. Thank you for describing that description quite wonderfully. The reason for the renovation is because the existing master bedroom contains one full window that provides very little light into the space. The window itself faces north into a courtyard and also is blocked by a heavy vegetation along the property line. So to increase the natural daylight into the space, we're proposing a small balcony to the side of the actual bedroom, as well as a pair of French doors with we could actually get some light into the space so that the space could be a little bit more functional. Square feet. And we're proposing architecture to match the existing building aesthetic. Existing shingles, painted shingles would be the same thing. White painted casing and trim for the windows and doors. Exact same aesthetic for the architecture of the building. Also heavily screened on the right side. So we received a neighborhood approvals, quite significantly 321 to the right side of the property has approved or voiced their support for the project with the understanding that there's heavy screening out there existing and privacy is not an issue at that location. As well as multiple areas for that property. The balcony actually tucked in between the side setback where there's heavy vegetation and the side of the property where it is. So it's quite tucked in, and there's actually not very much viewpoints as well at that location. So we believe the property, the proposal actually meets the intent. For your support and commissioners for your time tonight.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay. Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak on this item?
I'm not seeing any hands raised.
And I'm not seeing any emails.
All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, any comments or discussion on this project? Commissioner Haran.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank them for including the letters of support from the neighbors on the right and the left. I think that's a best practice. It really helped.
Anything else? Not a football game on or something, is it? Okay, then, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 317. Oh, yes, sorry, the special permit for the porch, the additional porch, the new porch on the second floor at 317 Occidental Avenue. Did I do that okay?
Perfect.
Good. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Chair Fall and a second by Commissioner Lowenthal. Any discussion on the motion? No. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Horan,
Aye.
Commissioner Lowenthal,
Aye.
Vice Chair Fa,
Aye.
and Chair Gall.
Aye, the motion passes 6-0-1. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's decision. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $745, which is noticed in the file. Congratulations and thank you for coming in tonight. All right, we will move on to my agenda item number 8C, 1095 Rollins Road. If you are the applicant or the applicant's representative and are attending the meeting by Zoom, please raise your hand so that we may be prepared for you to speak at the appropriate time. If possible, we ask you also turn on your video at that time. Commissioners not able to visit the project site or do any commissioner wish to note any ex parte communication. And let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we have a staff report?
Yes, this is an application for a fence variance for height, view fence and wall along the north side property line of a new multi-unit residential apartment development at 1095 Rollins Road. The property is zoned R4. Just to give you a little bit of background, this application was first approved by the Planning Commission for a new 6-story, 150-unit apartment building at 1095 Rollins on January 13th of 2020. The project is currently under construction and the applicant has filed a request for a fence variance for a proposed 10-foot solid wall and 7-foot solid fence on the north side property line between the apartment building and the property immediately to the north, which is a gas station at 1147 Rollins Road. In the R4 zoning district, we have a maximum height of fences and walls of 7 feet solid. I'm sorry, 6 feet solid with going to 7 feet so long as the last foot is open. The fence variance before you this evening includes a 10-foot poured in place concrete wall that would start at the rear left corner of the property and go forward 55 feet. This would have a board form finish that we've provided an example for you in your plans this evening. And then from that edge of the wall to the front property line, there would be a 7-foot solid wooden fence. Staff has provided suggested findings for variance in your staff report this evening, along with 4 recommended conditions of approval. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant's also here this evening to answer any questions you might have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions of staff? No? All right, then I'm going to open the public hearing. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you would like to add about your project?
Chair and Planning Commissioners, my name is Marilyn Pont and I'm with Prometheus Real Estate Group. We're the owners of the 1095 Rollins Road development. I don't have too much more to add. Catherine's staff report was great and I appreciate the thorough review. I did want to note the last slide. If we could pull that one back up, I thought it might be helpful just to note it's the view corridor. Just wanted to show the view corridor. It's on Rollins Road looking south towards our building, and the yellow highlighted area reflects the approximate area of the concrete fence with the increased height. On the opposite side of that fence is our private open amenity space, which was shown in the rendering. So we're just seeking a height variance to provide a little bit more buffer and a little bit more privacy from our open space to the commercial use. So I don't have anything more than that, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Something. Okay, then, do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? Did we receive any public comment or email?
I'm not seeing any hands raised on,
And no emails.
Okay, then I'm gonna close the public hearing. Commissioners? Comments?
Well, I think it looks nice, actually, and I completely understand the desire to have a more substantial, taller fence there. I think it's appropriate during and everything.
Okay.
And I like that there's greenery there. Nice job. Hopefully there's enough like greenery, like dirt for them to actually become something, but
Okay, Commissioner Camerata, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I can vote in favor of this as with the fence variance. And so I'd like to make a motion to support the project as per the staff report.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Camerata, second by Commissioner Schmidt. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Camerata,
Aye.
Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Lowenthal.
Aye.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Aye.
Vice Chair Pfaff,
I
and Chair Gall.
Aye, the motion passes 6-0-1-0. An action by the Planning Commission is appealable to the City Council within 10 days of the Planning Commission's action. If the Planning Commission's action has not been appealed or called up for review by the City Council by 5 p.m. on the 10th day, the action becomes final. In order to be effective, appeals must be in writing and must be accompanied by an appeal fee of $745, which includes notice of cost. Good luck, and thank you for coming in. Right, so that concludes our regular action items. We are going to move on to design review study, which we have one item, item 9A, 1205 Howard Avenue. If you're the applicant or the applicant's representative, I see you're here, so I'm not going to go over the Zoom requirement. Were any commissioners not able to visit the topic site, or do any commissioners note any ex parte communication regarding this project? Vice Chair Fox.
Yes, I did have communication with the applicant, and I don't know if the applicant's rep, whatever the issue is. Yes, I did.
Okay, and I also met with the applicant and the project architect. So let the record note that all commissioners present have visited the project site. Can we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you. This is an application for commercial design review for a second-story addition and facade improvements to an existing two-story mixed-use building at 1205 Howard, zoned HMU, the Howard Mixed Use Zoning District. This property is located within our downtown specific plan area. It's about 5,000 square feet in total area and currently contains a two-story mixed-use building. The building is currently vacant, with most recently occupied by a salon on the first floor with storage at the basement level. And the second floor was formerly a residential unit, but has most recently been used as storage supporting the ground floor personal service use. The proposed project before you this evening is an expansion of the second floor residential unit that includes renovating and adding 406 square feet at the rear, which is currently a roof deck. The project also includes commercial design review for exterior facade improvements on all four sides of the building. The proposed exterior improvements would change the architectural style from craftsman to modern and does include complete facade overhaul, including demolishing and reframing the existing cross gable roof to a flat roof. The commercial design review requirements triggered for design review due to the fact that more than 50% of the facade is being altered. As noted, the property is located within the Burlingame Civic Plan area and is within our downtown parking sector. All uses at the first floor or below are exempt from our parking requirements. However, any uses above the first floor are required to provide off-street parking. The proposed site currently contains 2 off-street parking spaces located at the rear of the property. And with the proposed residential improvements, the unit would increase from 2 to 4 bedrooms, which requires 2 parking spaces that can be met by the existing parking spaces on site. All other zoning requirements are met for this project, and staff has provided for your reference the design review criteria used for your review of the project. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is here as well. Thank you.
Catherine, are there any questions of staff? Commissioner Camerata?
So I have a quick question, and I'm not sure if this is relevant. This obviously doesn't fall into like the historical sector of downtown Burlingame, right? As
So we did do an analysis for historic buildings when we prepared the downtown plan. I believe it was in 2007, and the subject property did not show up as being eligible for either state or federal listing. So it was part of the analysis done during the preparation of the downtown plan. But this property.
so it's not a Page and Turnbow, like a residential property that anything in downtown at this point, if they come in for renovations, that Page and Turnbow would be.
They would not, I believe they actually did the analysis for it,
Okay.
and it came up as not eligible. So we're, there's nothing that would require further study in terms of the property being listed either potentially under the state or federal register.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Fox?
Yeah, just something to add to that. It was actually Carey Company did.
Carry company, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
That's okay. I don't know if they exist anymore.
You are right.
But yeah, they did, well, yeah, wasn't a full survey, but I understand why that one didn't hit all the buttons. Because it has been updated over time and portion closed and some windows changed and et cetera, but it was looked at definitely. But I do have a couple of questions if it's okay.
Sure.
All right, so it looks to me like one of the materials, whoops, see, there's a drawer there. Called out is aluminum siding. And so, well, first I wanted to ask is what is underneath their shingles there. They're not in bad shape. They actually look very new to me. And now I remember the building being refaced not that long ago. But anyway, are they being ripped off and covered or just covered with the material? Do you know? Or maybe I need to ask the applicant that. I don't know.
Probably a better question.
I do not know, and I believe that the applicant can respond to
Okay.
that because that has to do with more the application of the materials. So that would construction, and I think they can answer that for you.
Okay, and then for you, or maybe for you, I'll try, Catherine. Are they retaining the landscaping in front, including the magnolia? And are there any street trees proposed?
I believe all landscaping is to be retained.
Mhm.
And anything new, we can request, that's part of the study meeting if we wanted to add that in.
Oh.
But everything is being retained.
Okay, just because the property was the recipient of a landscape award from the city of Burlingame, you may remember about 10 years ago, I think, so. Let's see, I think those were my initial questions.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Nope, then I'm going to open the public. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and anything else you'd like to add about your project?
Do I turn this on? No, it's on. Wow, it's rare. I'm been on this side. Good evening, commissioners, staff. Welcome back to your chamber. Good to see you here. Computers. Wow. Fancy. I bet they got badges now. Shoot, what I always ask for. Oh, well. Thank you for allowing us to present our project. Just to clarify a little bit as to who the players are. Richard Tronis, Darling Tronis Architecture. Ted Catlin from our office is also here. Stanford Chang is here from CM Construction, and Felix Liu also part of the design team with the construction managers. We're not actually formally the architects of record for the project. We were hired as design consultants to help with the design of the facade, the exteriors of the building, and generally help shepherd the project through the entitlement process. So that's our role on the project. Moving forward, we may continue to be involved, but our efforts were to try to assist with the approvals and hopefully get that through on behalf of the property owner. So in terms of the property, Anna Chan is the property owner who purchased the building a few years ago, I believe. She was hoping to be here on Zoom. I don't know if she was able to Zoom in, but she wasn't able to be here in person. But so unfortunately, she may not be able to be attending, but just wanted to Zoom in. But so in purchasing the building a few years ago, she has some desire to improve the building, to modernize it. And in terms of some specific details, she is planning to actually operate the salon herself. She's in a rental property, a rental space, I believe in San Mateo. So she'll relocate to this and she will operate the salon, and she actually is planning to live in the unit up above. So it would be a really nice live work opportunity for the downtown area. So in evaluating the project as we came on board, we looked closely at the existing structure. And in all honesty, we're a little torn because it's a handsome little building. I mean, it has a nice presence to the front facade, appears to be in relatively good shape. But unfortunately, in terms of the program for the space and the upper floor in particular, if you were to go up there, you can see on the plans, the corners of the building, because you have meeting gables, you end up with a lot of really wasted space. So from a programmatic standpoint, it really was only going to be able to operate as maybe two. You can maybe try to carve out another bedroom. But a better plan was to remove the second floor and get a better living unit up on that second floor space. In addition, in looking at our interpretation and the texture of the overall Howard Avenue mixed use area, and were the photos that Ted sent in earlier, or can we get those? Oh, okay, here we go. There were some photos that we sent up of the downtown. Okay, so here we go. So looking at the neighborhood context, if we go to just maybe the first photo there, you can see that it's, well, all the while it's a great little building, nice gable form. Just that rear triangle is just really striking from a design standpoint. But our reading of that is it's a house. It's a house that was relocated there and is now on Howard Avenue amongst other commercial properties, and it's not amongst its friends, so to speak. If we flip through a couple of these other photos, so here you can see it in the context of the, as Commissioner Pfaff called it, the Hammer Building to the left there. You can see it in the context of that, and then the building to the right. It's kind of, if not a gap tooth, it doesn't fit in with the rest of the commercial buildings that Howard Avenue is now and will continue to evolve. Next slide. So here you can see, looking up, you can really see the texture of Howard Avenue for what it's become over time in terms of the commercial area. And when we did the downtown plan, as you may recall, the hope was that Howard Avenue would be a secondary draw to Burlingame Avenue with its commercial gravity, get linkages from Lorton and Primrose across over to Howard Avenue. We're really hoping to get that energy in it. And I think it's going to come forward, particularly with the post office site and its gravity that it'll have. It'll draw some attention over here to Howard Avenue. So it's going to continue to evolve. So in talking through, to make a long story short, which is always difficult for me, but in summary, where we landed with the owners, she really wanted to have a modernized building that fit within the context of Howard Avenue. So we landed on the design that was the parapet roof and a more appropriate second floor living space. And then in terms of looking at the articulation of the facade, we didn't want to do just a simple stucco box. Now that said, every client we've always had, almost every client I've always had, there's one, and you could probably name her, in which money was no object. But with every client that we have, there's always a budget to consider. There are always economics. And so in talking through with Stanford and with Felix and with the owner in terms of what we could try to achieve, we wanted to do something that was relatively simple and economical, but it still had some scale, had some articulation, had some charm. We still wanted to achieve some pedestrian scale along Howard Avenue. So in working with the entry and working with the awning that we had over the bay and the awning over the entryway itself. We wanted to try to achieve some scale there on Howard Avenue. So it wasn't, again, just a simple box. We wanted to articulate it with some materials. So we introduced the horizontal siding, but at the same, and break down the rhythm across the building with the stucco versus the wood siding and articulate that corner. Because as you've probably seen, if you visit out there, there's the driveway. So you do get a good glimpse of that corner. So it isn't just a straight facade that we're looking at. So we turn the siding around the corner to work its way down the driveway, and then also worked with the horizontal bands to tie both the front facade together and then work its way around each corner so that you really saw the building in 3D. Even if you really couldn't get a good picture on the right-hand side, you at least see some of that with the area, with the horizontals that we were working around that side. So that's sort of the evolution of the design and where we've landed. And so we're before you, obviously, with the design review. That's the only thing that we're asking for is the commercial design review. Otherwise, we meet all of the other requirements. In terms of the criteria, I believe it was criteria 3 and criteria 4, that as I was looking at it, that's where we were having some struggle just in terms of meeting the being compatible with the surrounding developments, being compatible with mass, bulk, and scale of the neighborhood. And so again, that's why we landed on a more commercial storefront, a true 2-story building as it presents itself to the street, and particularly when you turn the corner and work your way down the drive. Programmatically, again, we're keeping the parking in the back because that will serve the residential unit up on the 2nd floor. Filling in that deck on the 2nd floor, so you wouldn't have, although the neighbor to the back is an apartment building, but you wouldn't have that 2nd floor deck. That might be an annoyance to any neighbors. So that's the gist of our project. Welcome any questions or comments or feedback or anything that we can address, and if we hopefully can come back for action.
Thank you. It's almost as if you've been to 1 or 2 of these meetings. Does anyone have questions of the applicant?
Yeah, it was with regard to the process. So I looked real close at that building. I'm sure you can imagine. And I'm first of all just curious if the construction would involve taking the existing shingles and siding or whatever's there off, or leaving them in place and putting what I seem to think is aluminum siding on top. What is?
No. Sorry. Yeah, Commissioner Pfaff, the idea would be to remove the shingles. In order to get a good weather-tight facade, we would take off the shingles, get new stucco, and then put the siding in the areas where we've shown. To try to do that kind of siding over existing shingles, I mean, there's probably some 1950s and 60s aluminum siding salesmen, that might try to sell you on that, but no, that wouldn't be what we would propose. And to be clear, when we say aluminum siding, we're not talking about the 1950s and 60s type of aluminum horizontal siding. We're talking about a more commercial siding. And it may not be aluminum, it may be some other synthetic, but the idea is to put something on there that has some substance, has a good look to it, but also doesn't have the maintenance that you would have to get into every 7 to 10 years to refinish a wood siding. Everybody's doing Ipe wood and maybe some cedar siding of some sort, but again, that requires a lot of maintenance, over time. And so for a commercial building like this, we would probably look at a synthetic of some sort. And so we've just shown aluminum for now.
Okay, and so did you consider, I see that you've kept the door stoop where it is. Did you, it's not for this design, I think not very optimal spot, but anyway, did you consider removal, or they absolutely need to keep that stoop there? And
no, we didn't really talk about it. We kept it there just as a legacy of there before.
not original,
But it's not, it's not original.
definitely not original.
Yeah, and it's not a deal breaker. If there's some other options that you'd like us to look at, we could talk to the owner and see if there's something that might fit a little bit better. But again, we left what was there primarily for economic reasons.
And also regarding the windows, are those then, sorry, I should have done my homework better. Are those final windows? What,
No, no.
with their, their,
What we're proposing is a solid aluminum window. If you know, some of the manufacturers, it'd be like a Western window or a Fleetwood. It would be a solid aluminum commercial grade window. So not even, a step up from a residential aluminum window. Most aluminum windows that you see residential applications is a wood core with aluminum cladding. This would be a solid aluminum window.
okay, all right, I'm gonna let my colleagues have the floor.
Commissioner Lowenthal.
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple questions. The first is to the stoop, and this may just be a drafting issue. Is the side light supposed to be the same size as the front door? Okay, I'm a little concerned that it may be drawn bigger than what it actually is to scale. Is that little curb to the left, right, are actually quite small, and they're smaller than the current front door.
Right.
And I assume that was my other follow-up, is that, you know, that door is not a double door, it is a door and a side light.
Correct.
So I'm just a little concerned that maybe the look might look a little awkward with that curb, that brick curb that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. We'll take a closer look at that.
And then the other thing, maybe a drafting thing, but the new large picture window up top doesn't line up on the right to the bottom windows, but it does line up on the left. Is that intentional, or maybe it's just a drafting thing?
Yeah, it's probably just a drafting thing.
Okay, and then to that same point, the three picture windows below that window are not the same size. They're all different sizes, it looks like.
Yeah. Right. No, the bay the bay is symmetrical. So yeah, we'll check that. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
Yep.
And then just last thing about windows, it looks like there's a double or single hung design going around the back and sides, and then picture windows up top or casements.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Schmidt?
So I'm not seeing a building section. And as I've just calculated heights and things, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of room upstairs. I think a building section would help explain how
Okay.
you're going to reframe, what the parapet's gonna look like.
Okay.
Just seeing flat on top, the roof plan doesn't show anything of any value to be helpful. So
Okay. Okay. We'll do a section.
I'm just thinking some,
Yep. No, that's a good point. Yeah.
I feel like the design work is fine and it's communicative, but none of the other pages support it.
Gotcha.
Uh,
Okay.
to Commissioner Lowenthal's point is, the design elevation says aluminum windows, but yet the detail on a 4.1 indicates vinyl windows.
Uh-oh.
And trim that doesn't look like anything that's on the design. So I think that, as this comes back for action, it would be great if the rest of the working drawings were agreeing. Question on then the transition, how do you see the transition from the stucco to the siding?
We want to get a offset of at least a couple of inches so that it's not just in plane. So, we may end up furring out that aluminum siding to.
Yeah.
So we'll get you a detail on it.
Yeah,
Yep.
those are the things that just, when I looked at this, it just feels like it's missing those next pieces.
Okay.
Know that it's gonna get done well.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure with, it was confusing on how the relationship was working and what was being done.
Right.
So, and then I also noticed that when I was walking the site today, I saw crawl space access on the driveway side, but yet we're not drawing that in. So I'm assuming we still have crawl space to get to and somewhere to get to it.
Okay.
Is the ramp from the back going to remain?
Believe that, you're talking about on the left-hand side?
Yeah.
Coming from the back on the left?
Yeah.
That has to get rebuilt as part of the tenant improvement, correct? Yeah, I'm looking at our project manager. Yes,
Okay,
that has to get rebuilt for full access.
yeah, because it's not accessible. at
Right,
this point.
yeah.
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sure, thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Camerado.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
So the windows in the exterior rear elevation, are those the original are those going to be original windows, or are those going to be all changed out? Because it kind of looks the same as what's possibly currently there?
They're same location, but they would be new windows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you looked at, I felt like that there was a lot of windows there. Have you?
I'm sorry, Nancy. Obviously, on the second floor, it's all new because we're infilling that deck, but on the first floor, yes, it'll be just replacement of the,
Okay.
windows,
Okay,
same location.
understood. And then again, my comment about, I have a comment about the front porch and, I just feel like the brick might not fit well with this type of architecture and
Okay.
maybe would you consider doing even some pretty concrete stairs that could maybe tie into the color of what you're already using? Or, the other question I had was, I know that a lot of women have to walk up and down the stairs. Do you need to put a handrail or something? It might not be by code. Oh, there is one there. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah,
On there.
we'd have there. Andrea.
Okay.
Okay. Or perhaps concrete. We can talk to the owner. Yeah,
Okay. Thanks, Richard.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant?
I have,
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, Vice Chair.
Isn't gone yet.
You have a-
so.
you have a question?
Just a clarifying question on the,
Sure.
the front facade.
Mhm.
A 3.1 shows one large picture window and then the cover sheet shows three.
Yeah, you caught it. Yeah, we noticed that this evening. Sorry, Commissioner. Yeah, the drawing on A 3.1 is what the owner preferred. That was a last minute change. We wanted to have a large picture window. And so then the front page was not changed. I want to reserve the right to talk to the owner about that because I'm not sure if that large of a picture window is right. I'd like to get a little bit more scale on that. I just don't want to commit her to that yet until I can talk to her about it a little bit more. But thank you. We'll make that correction and clarify.
It's your file.
Yeah, I noticed on, page A 3.0, on the material index, the reason I asked you the question from before is it says the shingle siding and the wood lap remain. So,
Where is that? On the,
material index on page,
oh, on A 3.0.
yeah, that's why I thought maybe you were covering what was there.
Yeah, you're right. Yes.
So, and lap siding to remain, shingle roof accent remain, well, a lot's supposed to remain, but I'm not sure it's really, I don't,
Yeah, I think that was a vestige from a previous
okay.
iteration. So,
And then my other question is, yeah, about I think we were just both asking about the same window, but I'm not sure. Was it the bay window on lower end or you were?
I was talking about the second floor front.
Oh, boy, well, I'm talking about the first one. The reason why that's so big, it's a replacement for what is already there.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, the existing is a large picture window, so yeah, it was just placement in kind, but we could look at that if you're asking for a little bit more articulation, do you think, or?
I don't know, you're the guy.
Yeah, no,
So,
well, I definitely want to fix the asymmetry thing that we've got.
yeah,
But-
but I did, with regard to that, the stoop. Did you consider, because someone likes the stoop or wants it to be there. Did you consider a design, that used that as a, beginning point? Something more art deco-y with a round window or something that incorporates have you thought about something sleek, streamlined?
You're talking about for the steps, Commissioner Foff, or are you talking about for the
Well, because
entry door
right now,
itself,
steps are in,
Mhm.
whatever shape this, or it's sort of a half round or whatever.
right?
But did you consider maybe, yeah, like, something that brought them more modern streamline, that like kind of played it up a little bit, leaving the steps there and maybe, I don't know, like a round window next to the door. I don't know, something that was different, went off it instead of having this oddity of stair, which to me it looks like now, and it's throwing everything off. Just kind of going off of it and saying, well, we could maybe don't have to cut up the front the way it's cut up or do. something.
Yeah,
Yep.
we hadn't thought of that, but I'll tell you what we did think of that
Mhm.
really didn't work. When we knew we were gonna lose that sort of purity of that triangle, we actually tried sort of a pediment style entry over the door. And it really looked bad. I mean, it looked like classical Greek meets Dwell magazine, for lack of a better description, and it really didn't work. But I was trying to see if we could maintain some of that character. I like where you're going in terms of just if we're going to reconsider the stoop, see what it can do in terms of its presence and what that offers to the entryway. And so I think we can reevaluate that if we, divest ourselves of the idea of trying to keep that brick and do something else with that stoop, it might offer some interesting thoughts. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Maybe one last, is there any requirement for ADA for people to get into them?
Yeah, there's going to be new access, like we were saying, along that left-hand side. And I was reminded by our project manager, Stanford, that there may be an issue with that maple tree because of the lift that we need to get into for that first. For magnolia. That's maple?
Magnolia,
No,
Oh.
the magnolia.
that's
So,
not good.
maybe we can revisit that or.
Can
Right.
you make the back? Because I used to get my hair done there. Can you make? Can you
Looks
make,
very nice.
can you make the back be the access for the ADA? Instead of the front, or does it legally have to be the front? But it's not, but there's a
Well,
difference in kind of where
Right.
you get your hair washed in the back.
we'll take a look at. Yeah, I don't want to commit and say, yes, we can. and
Yeah, I mean, just maybe look at
With the thing department. We'll take a look.
Good. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate the feedback. I think we have a little work to do, but I think we can respond. We look forward to coming back to you for action.
Great.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak on this item? Receive Zoom or email?
I'm not seeing any hands raised on Zoom.
And no emails.
Okay. Then I'm going to close the public hearing. Commissioners' comments on this project?
Okay, so I'm gonna go. In not a good way, this reminds me of the redo of in the 50s of the Women's Club on Park Road. A beautiful bungalow, and I don't think it had been fiddled with nonetheless, with this adjunct to the front. But in that case, the front and the back are just almost different structures. So the front has, I don't know, some kind of a stonework or something, and it was to provide an entry and give them some space, like an entrance of foyer. In this case, the new part, I guess, is going on the back, but I'm just not, if I can get past the, for lack of a better word, the obliteration of a very cute little house, which was there, by the way, they were all there and they've been gradually replaced by businesses. I'll just move on to say, if I force myself to move along and say, okay, that building had been changed, it'd been altered from its original, and now it's going to be this new thing that's supposed to fit in. I just don't think it's a good design. And it's really hard for me to say that because there's practically very few architects that are better than the one sitting in here this evening in the audience. And I don't understand, for example, I'm not understanding why the structure in the front is divided into two different elements. There's no change in planes. There's not, and even if you do a finished piece, it would be completely minimal. If part were coming out and part were going back, I could understand the language, but I don't. So I'm just thinking, it would be nice to see maybe one material in the front and wrapping maybe around. That was idea to wrap around and get several feet of the sides. That's great. I just don't understand the division here, and the windows look really very large to me. And I won't talk about the stairs. I think there's just a problem there. The way it's just not balanced, and it's not asymmetrical and it's not symmetrical. It's some weird in between that doesn't commit. It's not committed. So, and I don't understand why the bay would still be there either, that funny bay window, because nothing is there that was before, but the banding is all gone. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Camarado.
Yeah, I have to agree with Commissioner Beth. I think the one thing that I wanted to say, the second floor, large window in the front, the first thing I said was it's just way too big. I like the rendition on the front page more than I like that. I felt like the front stairs really need some changes. And then perhaps the question is, maybe we can get a materials board or some samples to understand what this material actually looks like. And maybe it's the color of the material that's throwing us all off. Maybe you have to go with a little bit more of a subtle look. I'm not saying gray has to be it, but just something that is a little bit on the lighter tone, so it doesn't just stand out in our faces. But I do, again, yeah, I need to see some definite changes on this project.
I think there are some positives. I mean, I think the owner has the right to fully develop this property from end to end. And so this is a smaller scale development, which I think is nice that it still has a front setback and it's not taking up the side driveway. They could go 55 feet high and it's not doing that. So there's some scale benefits. I do like the existing house, but I think Richard did a good job saying it really doesn't fit anymore. It'd be nice if they lifted the whole thing up and moved it to a residential neighborhood maybe. I'm not as opposed to the design as my fellow commissioners. I think the front stoop doesn't fit, that's true. And maybe the bay window is not necessary anymore, but the overall design is not that far off in my opinion.
I would have to agree with most of the comments made. When we met previously, we talked about some of this and I expressed my concerns about getting rid of one of these older little houses in Burlingame that I always liked, but for as long as I can remember, it's looked out of place between those two buildings, and we did have that discussion. So I came around to the idea of more of a modern design, and I think that this can fit well as much as I would like to see a little house stay. It really is out of place because of the designs on either side of it. And I think that part of the problem that we're all struggling with is the keeping of the brick stoop, or I think the bricks don't fit. And I think the idea of maybe having something made out of concrete would fit better, maybe even something like what we had on the last project of the fence project where it was just the form board texture on there. I think that might work there. But I know it's not going to be cheap, but that's part of it. But I like where the project's going, and I would also, I don't think necessarily that the bay on the front, I get it that it's there, but the design, all the other elements have disappeared and the bay is still there. And I kind of think it doesn't fit. And the material board is a great point too. So, Commissioner Schmidt.
Yeah. I agree. I'm not big on the brick stoop anymore. I think it's not fitting. I like the 3 windows on the front top rather than the big picture window that counts for anything. And I'm just looking for a bit more clarity when it comes back so that we know that the items are being taken care of and are buildable, and that the set will look good. But otherwise, I think the change is fine. I don't have any objections to that. And overall, I think it's fine. So I could see it going forward to action.
Okay. Commissioner Lowenfeld, you have a comment?
Yeah, I tend to agree with what everyone said. I think the building fits actually pretty well with the mass and scale of what's around it. And you have a gigantic box to the left, the gigantic box to the right, and this one I think fits a lot better than the current house. In itself, the building, is a nice, handsome building, but it does not fit where it is. And I think this new design is in the right direction. I think from all the comments we've heard, I think if we clean up some of these materials, if you get rid of the brick, that'd be great. And obviously some of the small rendering issues. I think it's a good looking project when that all is taken into account. So I don't think it's a straight start from scratch. I just think there's some things that need to be cleaned up, and I think getting rid of the brick and having something maybe a little bit more in tune with the design would sell it for me. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you. If no one has any further comments.
I have one comment, and just look at that back for the ADA, so we don't have to get rid of that beautiful magnolia in front. That would be great.
Well, if the stoop was going away, you might be able to incorporate a ramp there. I don't know.
Yeah.
They can work it out.
4.5 feet.
Yeah.
That's gonna be forever.
It's that high. huh?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I didn't look at it. All right, would anyone like to make a motion? I'll make a motion to bring this back on regular action, once the, design team has addressed some of our comments.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Chair Gall and a second by Commissioner Rand. Any discussion on the motion? Anything else to add? No, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Commissioner Camerado,
Aye.
Commissioner Haran,
Aye.
Commissioner Lowenthal.
Aye.
Commissioner Schmid,
Aye.
Vice Chair Pfaff,
Aye.
and Chair Gall.
Aye. So motion passes 6-0-1, and this is not appealable. Thank you guys for coming in. Appreciate your time. All right, then, we will move on to commissioners' reports. Are there any commissioners' reports? About directors' reports?
There are no FYIs this week, but I will report on the last city council meeting on March 6th. That was also their first one back here in the chambers, so we are all back. We had a presentation on the housing element annual progress report. This is something that we're obligated to do every year at this time of year. This year was significant because it was the last year of the current housing element cycle. So it was our kind of final scorecard. The city did very well in its overall production. We're required to permit 863 units and ended up permitting more than 1,500. So we well exceeded the total number. Some of it's cyclical. We had some good years in here for production. 8 years ago, we had not met our goals. So it's a combination, I think, of changes in the regulatory framework and also just the housing market has been supportive of building housing units. So, but it's good to get that scorecard and be ready for the next 8-year cycle.
So the city attorney won't have to go talk to the government.
Am I allowed to ask a question? or no?
Yeah.
You can stop and. So, many of us have read of the lawsuit, so about that. So is there something happening? Like,
Well, we don't really want to talk about that in the public section, but Kevin, if you wanted to talk a little bit about their public website that we have available right now, maybe where some resources can be found on that.
Sure. So first of all, the annual progress report is kind of independent of all that. It's just about doing our annual report on what's been going on with the housing element. We have put together a webpage at burlingame.org/pro-housing, which tells the story of what the city has been doing for housing. I think some of it is to counter some of the things that we read in the press, which are maybe not exactly maybe a little misleading or leaving things out. So we wanted to be able to have a better rebuttal out there. And we certainly appreciate all the hard work the Planning Commission has done in reviewing these housing developments. So we wanted to acknowledge that. Yeah, the lawsuit is just its own thing.
Okay, thank you. Item number 12, future agenda items. Would anyone like this? Do we have any suggestions for future agenda items? Would anyone like to suggest?
No, I just wanted to ask Kevin, do we know when the joint meeting is proposed for? Have we?
We are going to do another round. It looks like a Saturday morning was not going to work. So we are going to need to look at some Wednesday evenings. Wednesdays tend to be the evenings that we don't have other things scheduled. We don't have commissions, we don't have committees and things like that. So we will be sending out another poll and looking at some Wednesday evening options in April and May.
Okay. And more importantly, do we have a date for the commissioners' dinner?
No, we don't. Yeah, certainly. It was not last Friday, so you didn't miss anything.
got it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure what the status of that is, but we're told it's in the works.
Okay. Commissioner, want to miss a free meal? Commissioner Hand.
Just a future agenda topic. I see that the state's considering a requirement to allow commercial buildings to be converted to housing. So just to see what our position would be.
Maybe a presentation on that. And talk about it.
Just, yeah, how would that impact Burlingame if that were to be the case?
You mean opposite?
Yeah.
And sorry, is it proposed legislation or is it adopted?
Proposed
Proposed.
as part of the housing push, yeah.
We'll look into it. There's a lot of things on the docket right now, so
Yes,
we'll
yeah, that's a,
we'll do a little bit of research and see what it's all about.
I have one more, sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
go ahead.
I know that we've had kind of this crazy storm with all these trees going down and I guess my question is, are we looking at property owners that have some of these really large trees on their properties and have, is it still our position as a city that is the city arborist, kind of like they can't move a tree if they want to move a tree, if it's, I just worry about some of these large redwood trees that are kind of in the middle of lots and people can't remove them and with everything that has been going on this year.
No, I understand what you're saying. We actually are going to be talking about our tree ordinance in an update in the coming year. So that will be coming up on the agenda at the city council meetings. And obviously it'll be in front of the beautification. And we'll make sure that there's lots of public comment periods and everyone can really get into that process and we can talk about it. So that is coming. Those are all concerns that I think will be talked about and will be incorporated and discussed in that update,
Okay, thank you.
of course.
Okay, any other questions, agenda items, anything? I think that's it. And I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:06 PM.
That was a record one.
Yeah, actually.